get to go have a meeting with one of my managers in her community. They asked me to come out tonight. They wanted me to come out and do a Board 101 class with them. I'm really excited that someone reached out and asked us to do education. Nothing I like to do more than to try and educate this industry, so let's get moving.
So anyway, so James,
There
you go.
Thank you very much. Again, James Phifer with ACCU. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. This meeting went very well, and I'm excited about what we're going to do moving forward. And in the process, I was asked to come give some education, and as I'm not an attorney, I only play one on TV, I can't really talk about law, but I can talk about what it is that we do. And there is a lot going on in the HOA world. Who had heard about manager licensing? So the government got involved in our business and said managers should be licensed, and I was very for it. I thought that was great. I thought it elevated the industry. It gave barrier to entry for somebody who wants to become a community manager. They have to show that they have a level of knowledge before they come in and start managing associations. And what we do for a living, I think that's very important. If we were to add up the amount of money that we have under management for one of our managers, for all the liquid assets and real estate assets, it's a lot of money. And so you should have a license to have it. So when we were going through this process, myself and ACCU was heavily involved with the Sunrise process and giving our input. We were a stakeholder through that, and I think we really helped shape what licensing was. And so we were very happy with how it came out. And it was set for it was going through sunset review last year during the legislative process. And I was testifying to the Senate Judiciary Committee on why licensing should stay intact. And there was a lot of people there that were going against the bill and thought it should die. Well, what we do is very confusing. And so the Senate Judiciary Committee said, we need to look at this more. We're going to go another year before we sunset this thing because we need to talk to more stakeholders. It wasn't what we wanted, but at least it was going to stay intact. So we left that room, and a couple weeks later, Jared Polis, our governor, went out and killed it. He vetoed the bill, and so manager licensing has since been dissipated. So what's happening now through this process, and I was down talking to Representatives Duran, Titone, and Weissman because they're interested in running something. It really looks like licensing to me. And being as Jared Polis already killed licensing, I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do, but there is some interest in having what they've called mandatory accreditation, which is something that managers would have to go get from a governing body like CAI, the organization that kind of oversees us and provides education to homeowners and management companies, et cetera. It doesn't look like anything's going to happen in that area, but they may end up bringing a bill forth. More of what they're looking at is trying to give the HOA information office some teeth with Kiowa. And to say that if a community association board or a management company is in violation of Kiowa, which the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act, that a violation can come forth. But more importantly, they're trying to do what's called a dispute resolution clause. They're trying to give owners of an association a way to resolve an issue without having to file litigation in court. Because right now, that's really the only way that most boards, they're good boards, right? It's the minority that have a pretty big problem. But homeowner associations are reaching out and asking for an alternative, and so this alternative dispute resolution has come up, and I don't know what that looks like, because in our world, it's like, I relate what we do to, coming out and finding a ticket on your car when you're downtown trying to have a good time, right? Nobody likes to come outside and find a ticket on your car. We ticket homes for a living, so we're not the most popular people in the world. So if we had to go through an alternative dispute resolution for each issue that came in to our office, unfortunately that would form a whole new department that we would have to fund to be able to handle that volume. So that's something that they're considering through this process, because the last thing we want to do is add additional expense. That's going to pull in the association's attorney, it's going to pull in ACCU's attorney. We have an indemnification clause with the association, and the last thing we want is to add additional expense to the association. So nothing is set in stone. A bill hasn't even been written yet. These are just conversations that are happening down at the Capitol building. And the legislators are really trying to look out for the better interest of you as homeowners and making sure that property management companies are doing the right thing. And I really appreciate that, because I really feel like it elevates the industry to our standard. ACCU is a GAAP accounting company. We separate out all accounting responsibilities. So we have accounts, well, your association has an accounts payable clerk, receivable clerk, a bookkeeper, a banking specialist, a legal liaison, and a controller who oversees the whole process. And a management company, you don't want the person who is ordering the work, booking the work, and writing the financial statements, right? Because that opens up to fraud. So we are that type of company, and that's what licensing did. It really elevated to say that you need to be GAAP compliant and that you have to have certain insurances, and those are all the things that we bring. And so we thought there was value. I will continue to campaign for our industry and for our customers to try and bring everybody up to that level. So that's a little bit about what's going on legislatively. I did hear that your community is very, very good at looking into the details when it comes to things like how to fund projects and the accounts within your association. Reserves are a big deal, and I think you're going to hear from a real estate agent and possibly a mortgage lender tonight about what it takes to be able to get a home in an association. And as a management company, one thing that we're constantly trying to educate our boards and our homeowners on is how important it is to have a certain amount funded in your reserves, right? Because if a homeowner is out looking for a new home, they want to make sure that they're walking into a community that has a certain reserve fund. Because if it's too far depleted, the real estate agent may have a hard time selling in that community as opposed to a neighboring community. And so when a board is faced with the challenges of how we are going to fund things, it can really be a tough decision. I think special assessment is usually a bad word when it comes to living in a homeowners association, but sometimes it can be the better option as opposed to depleting the reserve funds, because it really can affect resale value. And then I'll leave the rest of that to the other speakers tonight. But do you have any questions about what I presented tonight? Yes, sir.
What was the governor's reasoning for killing the bill?
The letter that came out stated that it is putting a hardship on people interested in starting management companies is really what it came down to. It's putting too much of a barrier between for people who want to start a management company. I'm not sure that I buy that 100%, but that was essentially what it said.
When you said dispute resolution, is that a form of mediation?
It is going to be a form of mediation. That's very perceptive. So when you file in court, the court's going to send you back to mediation, right? That's almost what happens 100% of the time. If you're not able to resolve it in mediation, then they'll hear it in court. So this is a step before, pretty much to make sure that mediation is occurring, a sort of alternative dispute resolution for associations.
Would it be binding?
No. Nope. Well, I can't say yes or no because nothing's written yet, and it hasn't been passed. But they're really looking at ADR as something that needs to happen in Colorado for homeowners and boards. Any other questions? No?
I got one.
Yeah.
If there's a lawsuit between an HOA and a unit, does it affect the rest of the unit's property values? And what about the sale of the unit? Will it affect them selling it?
Is it detrimental to the sale?
And what we're talking about here is affecting the entire association, because the association is filing that litigation normally against the declarant for defects in building the property. And I think the question is if a unit owner sues the association, does that affect value? And yes, any negative thing like that, that's going to be on a questionnaire. And I don't know if lending is going to be available because I don't lend. More often than not, my experience is no. But I don't think it's going to affect the community in its entirety. If your neighbor's home is for sale and you're the one suing the association, the lender might not have an issue. They're going to look into it, but underwriting will have to make that determination. Is it going to affect property value? Again, I think it's situational. If it's a potential for a big lawsuit, yes. If it's I'm suing my board because they're violating me because I painted my door yellow, probably not, right? So the last thing is associations are a little bit different. Corporations normally had D&O, directors and officers insurance, for monetary mistakes. But in associations, you have monetary and non-monetary claims, such as I painted my door yellow. That's non-monetary. And so we have to be very careful how we get insurance for associations to make it cover. And I'm going to address one more thing, and then I'm going to answer that question. And this comes down to things like fidelity insurance. This is very important. Fidelity insurance was a requirement of associations when the licensing law was in effect. And what Fidelity had to cover was all of the reserves plus 2 months worth of assessments, the monthly assessments. And there were insurance agents out there that I saw doing things like putting employee dishonesty policies on and saying, that's fine. Well, the management company is not an employee of the association. So if there was a theft from management company to association and a claim got turned in, they'd be like, sorry. But if it's a fidelity policy that covers, then it's going to cover you and what you have put into this association. And
we are actually working through that issue right now.
Yeah, so those types of things are very important for communities.
So let's say that someone purchased a property and there was different things left out. Because what we were discussing was that, the HOA provides the documents, but normally the agent has to pay for those documents.
The agent doesn't.
The seller does.
The seller. So, and this is
There
a
you
big,
go, seller.
this is a big issue.
He's the one who is one of the people who the agent went to a knockoff website to get the documents, and they
We're
didn't have
having
all the documents.
huge problems with that.
And we didn't have them underwritten, we just paid cash.
I just bought a home myself, and if I didn't run a community association management company, I wouldn't have realized this. There's a couple of companies out there that are third-party resellers of our documents, and what we have all the legwork in it. I've got people hired. We gather the information, we put it all together. They come on and they buy one package for an association, and then they sell it for the rest of the year. And so they make all the profit on it. It's a very profitable model because they don't have a whole lot of overhead. The issue is that they don't know if anything's changed. They don't know, and oftentimes documents are updated, and so the buyer doesn't get them. And so I am talking to the legislator on a high level right now, trying to make sure that there's consumer protection in this area. We had one association that had a water leak, and the resale package didn't show the water leak on it, and out $10,000. Big problem, right? Another association had changed their documents, and a homeowner buys in, hadn't read the documents. Well, they had changed and they didn't allow for commercial vehicles, and he had a commercial vehicle, so he moved in and he was in violation and started to receive fines. These are problems, and why it's really important to use the management company for these things so we can make sure that you get the proper documentation.